Hi all of you, glad you joined me on my trip into the wasteland. Now I'm going to play the first scenario of the campaign, To the Rescue. Now what has happened so far? We have this beautiful settlement led by my Minutemen General Serena, Preston Garvey and their Minutemen. But one day, when Johnny and his friends returned home to their settlement, all the Minutemen were gone, captured by the Institute. And now it's on to Johnny and his friends. So they now have to leave their settlement, follow the road and the tracks, and battle the evil Institute that has captured their friends and families. And so we begin our first scenario. As player characters, we first have Johnny. He's a sole survivor with his classic 10mm pistol. Then Hancock, he has a plasma pistol. And then there is Codsworth with his classic Mr. Handy weapons. And then we have some normal settlers, Pete, Tanya and George, each with an assault rifle. And as enemies today you will see one Brahmin and some bloodworms. For these I used the Mole Rat rules because they can use burrow attacks and gave them 2 perks Life Giver and Nerd Rage to make them more dangerous. And last but not least, the big worm. For this I used the Red Scorpion rules because it can also make burrow attacks. First of all, to our gaming table. The survivors will have to start right over here in front of this Minuteman statue, which represents the end of their now destroyed home, their settlement, and have to follow this road right up over here, as the scenario states, 3 foot long. So this young lady, a free tech, she represents the end of this table. She's standing right there at the beginning of some factory site where our next scenario will be played. These small counters here, third over here, and fourth over here are my counters for the inhabitants. The next step in preparing the gaming table will be the loot markers. I have all the blank ones over here, all the normal ones over here, and we have a gaming size of 3, so we'll need 3 of the blanks and 6 of the normal ones. So we'll take 6 of the normal ones randomly, put the rest aside, then add 3 of the blank ones, mix them up, and now randomly add 6, double our board size, to the gaming table. Now the loot markers have been placed. They scatter from the starting positions of the enemy markers. And now it's time to place our survivors. So here they are, 3 normal settlers in the back row. Then Johnny, our sole survivor day 1 with a 10mm pistol in front in the middle. Codsworth to his right and Hancock with a plasma pistol to his left. The first one to be activated is Codsworth, moving twice over to this loot marker right here. And as you can see, he finds nothing, but ends near enough for this token to be revealed. First, let's check if the marker is real. Yes, he is. If I would have rolled an explosion in Nuclear 1, then the marker would have been unreal, just some shadows my guys would have seen, and there would be no animal or enemy under this marker. Some of those nasty bloodworms are approaching. And how many are there? The number of worms is 1 lower than the number I've rolled, so it's 1 bloodworm approaching. It can never be under 1. Now I roll the armor dice to see the scatter distance. I rolled a 4, so it will scatter orange. From this marker over here, it will scatter orange in this direction. So, something about this. I'll place the bloodworm right here and put away the marker that represented some unknown inhabitants. I've decided that this worm would be lurking right in front of my settlement. So I placed the lurking AI card over the normal AI card. The activation of Mr. Codsworth is done, so the AI chooses their only model and rolls a blue dice. The AI rolls the blue dice and gets 2 bottles. As we've rolled 2 Coca-Cola bottles on our blue die, and there are many non-friendlies in line of sight, it will flee away from non-friendly models. As our little lurking bloodworm sees too many enemies, he flees away once, twice, and now ends its activation. Now it's time for Hancock. Hancock will move first over to this loot marker right here, have a look, and gets an item. And he gets a laser rifle, pretty good find for an old ghoul. Then he moves further up the board, but is out of sight of the enemy marker, so this inhabited won't be revealed yet. Now it's time for the first settler to activate. The man on the right activates and moves up the board. The settler ends his turn and is in cover, but stays in line of sight of this inhabitant marker, so this now gets revealed. I said moo! Now some grazing Brahmin over here. As I rolled a 2, 1 less, we only have 1 Brahmin arriving. Oh. We had to scatter orange in a random direction, so this Brahmin is now feeding right here. And as it's the only AI model now available, we activate this Brahmin and see what happens. It's just some crazy Brahmin, haven't noticed any hostility, so it's 2 stars. It just moves in a random direction. And ends up here, at the side of the battlefield, just an inch away from Codsworth, as they are in a big hurry rescuing the Minutemen that got captured by the Institute. The rest just storms up the field, ends up here. The 2 AI creatures are here, already have activated this turn. So now these 2 inhabitant markers each scatter yellow. That brings 1 marker over here and the other to the left side. So both pretty much at the end of our mission. So let's put away those activated markers and start the second turn. The second turn starts. This time, no attacks on long range. The lurking worm rolls a dice and strikes, as there are round about 2 settlers in line of sight. The others are, I guess, out of line of sight from the small worm. So it will strike. The worm attacks the nearest settler, having a range of red, borrowing as I use the mole red rules. He decides to go for a green die for charging. Missing completely. The settlers activate this ghoul settler next, who charges into the enemy. The assault rifle has a green and a black die. For being more than your enemy adds a green, and for charging he decides to go for a black die. Trying to hit in melee. Oh, it's a nice hit. Looking for 3 damage. The worm has an armor value of 1, 2 because I'm attacking close combat with a rifle. So blocks 2, gets 1 damage. And as he's now down to 2 life with his 1 damage, the nerd rage kicks in and he gets a strong armor rating. I represent the strong armor rating with this token. I know it's not a strong armor token, just to remind myself that the nerd rage is momentarily in effect. The grazing Brahmin rolls a blue dice, gets a Coca-Cola bottle, so moves in a random direction. So the Brahmin decides to go for the other side of the road and reaches the end of today's gaming table. Time for the next surviving settler to attack the creature that has attacked him. He also uses his assault rifle, so being more than the enemy adds a green die. Let's see if he can hit. First attack. It's a 5, no. And second attempt. Oh, that's a hit for also 3 damage. The mole rat has 1 armor, being 2 for using a ranged weapon in close combat, and a strong armor token, a strong armor rating of 1. Blocks non-regular. 1 of the damage gets ignored by the strong armor, so gets 2 damage, adding up to 3. And now the worm is dead. Having generated a quick action and being near Hancock means the settler can move orange now as a quick action. Johnny, our sole survivor day 1, moves twice to reach this loot marker and gains an item, a Nuka-Cola. Having not many enemies nearby, I decide to go for one settler, sprinting forward, revealing this inhabitant marker. Tanya rushes over here, being in twice green from both markers, so I'll start with this inhabitant marker over here. This time it's up to the big worms, and I decided they will be hunting. And again, only one big worm has been scattering and ends right at the edge of our battlefield. The second marker reveals to be some more bloodworms. I also decide to go for hunting because I want some more action in here. And we have... Let's reroll this, to be honest. Come on, guys. Really? Okay, I decide to go for the maximum of 3. And they did scatter, ending up here. So this board edge now looks pretty aggressive. The AI activates this bloodworm first. And he will be attacking. Good. Not being able to reach Tanya, the worm storms on, not looking for his defenses, ending up right here in the open. Now it's time for Mr. Codsworth to activate. Go a bit further and use his flamethrower, ending his movement here, and now flame on. That's a hit for 2 damage, and worm is on fire. Worm has an armor value of 1, so blocks nothing, 2 damage. Having 1 life left, his Nerd Rage ability now kicks in. The AI goes for Big Mama. He was hunting now, so he uses his own AI card. Nuka-Cola bottle. As I use him as a red scorpion, he will attack the nearest model, treating the attack as a strike. So he moves up the board once and then uses his borrow attack and go for Tanya, whose activity was disturbing his sleep. The worm is able to engage, not attack, even though it just uses strike. So I guess it will try to engage, not being able to attack this round, but staying out of hunting. So the worm ends up here, deciding for a black die on his charge. Now the only survivor model is Hancock, who moves up the board once and now tries to gun down this little fella over here. He uses his newly found laser rifle. Missing completely. So the only 2 miniatures left in this turn are these 2 worms, starting with this one. He will attack, and the one behind will also attack but stay in cover, charging Johnny and going for a green die. The second sneaky warp stays in cover over here. It's the beginning of the 3rd round and we hear some Diamond City news on our radio, so nothing happens. The AI has less models and I decided to go with this one first before he can turn to ash. He is on fire but has a strong armor rating, so the 1 damage is cancelled. The fire is out and he's charging into Codsworth, going for a black die for charging. So normally he has a yellow die, getting a black die for charging and a black die for being on Nerd Rage. Let's see if that attack hits Codsworth. Oh, 4 minus 1, it's a 3, it's a hit for 2 damage, 1 armor break. Okay, that's fine. So now Codsworth has an armor value of 2, blocks 1, and the other one by a strong armor token, so no damage for Mr. Codsworth. The Nerd Rage from this worm is ending. Time for Johnny to attack this worm. He's got a 10mm pistol hitting on a 3. So that's a beautiful hit for 2 damage. Worm has now an armor value of 2. Blocks nothing, gets 2 damage, and his Nerd Rage kicks in with his last life remaining. Second shot from Johnny in close combat. It's a miss. AI goes for the big worm. We are adding a black die for charging and rolling to see for the first time. Oh, the first attack is a miss. And without the charge die, the second attack of the big worm, it's a hit, 3 armor break. Oh. So Tanya uses her strong armor to get rid of one of the 2 damages, gets a second damage as a normal damage, and as she's got 1 damage and a Nuka-Cola bottle was rolled, she's now poisoned. Hancock charges in, trying to help Johnny, using his laser rifle in close combat, being more than the enemy, and he chooses a green die for charging, just wants to hit. And it's a complete miss. The AI attacks with this worm, Johnny. Still being in Nerd Rage, adding a black die. It's okay, forgotten. It's a hit, 1 armor break. So Johnny gets to roll his armor die. Blocking nothing, so gets 1 damage. That's just a strong armor token from him. Gone. Time for Mr. Codsworth to gun down or saw down this bloodworm. Mr. Handy Basso hitting on a 6. It's a hit, 1 armor break. So 2 damage for the bloodworm. He's dead. With his second action, charging the worm, sharing his newly produced water with Tanya. Sneaky Mr. Worm over here is hunting, rolling a nuclear explosion. So he's moving, ending up in this crater, preparing to attack. Now Tanya gets 1 damage back because she's poisoned and uses her assault rifle in close combat against the big worm. Tanya uses her assault rifle and they're more than the enemy. So first shot, it's a hit, 2 damage, okay. Armor roll. Big worm saves all of it. Second attack. It's a miss. Brahmin decides to go for another side of the battlefield, just walking along the edge. Another settler charges in, using his assault rifle also in close combat, going for a black die for charging. And it's a hit for 3 damage. So blocks 2. That's 1 damage. Last settler charges in, but can't attack this turn. 4 starts with this worm attacking Johnny. First attack, miss. Second attack, it's a hit, 1 armor break. So Johnny blocks the damage. Doesn't have any strong armor tokens left. Now Codsworth attacks Mr. Handy Basso. We're more than the enemy and we have a black charge die. So let's roll. It's a beautiful hit for 3 damage. 1 armor break. Worm has now 2 remaining. Blocks none, gets 3 damage. Second attack without the charge die. It's also a hit for 1 armor break. Big worm blocks 2. So no damage here. And with his generated quick action, he leaves close combat without attack of opportunity and moves 1 color less. So moves yellow up the board in the direction of the next objective. Why can he do it? Because he's in the red aura from Hancock. And as he produces 1 clear water each round, Tanya goes back to 0 damage. The AI now activates the big worm and attacks Tanya. First attack. That's a miss. Would have hit on a 6. And its second attack, it's a hit, 2 armor break. So that's 2 damage. And well, she's already poisoned, so 2 normal damage for Tanya. Now Tanya is up to 2 damage, having 2 health remaining. Activating now, which gives her a damage, and she's back to 3 damage, having 1 life remaining. First shot. That's a miss in close combat. Second shot. That is a complete miss. Last remaining worm attacks this school settler over here. Chooses a black die for attacking. That's a hit, 2 armor break, okay. 1 extra damage, so that's 2 damages. 1 is ignored by the strong armor token of the settler, so it gets 1 damage. Hancock just makes ready, not activating this turn. The Brahmin walks over here, looking for some grass to feed on. Now Johnny makes ready, and the first one I activate is Hancock. After this, his aura ability will give Johnny +2 on his first skill check. So, first Hancock, shooting at the worm. First shot. That's a hit, 3 damage, and 2 of them may ignore armor, so the worm is strictly dead. Now he passes the laser gun over to Johnny and uses a second movement to go to the mission objective over here. Now it's Johnny with a laser rifle. He charges this worm. So Johnny has a laser rifle, outnumbering the enemy and having charged. He normally hits on 3s, so that's a beautiful hit for 3 damage, 1 armor break. The worm has now armor 4 because I use it in close combat, 1 armor break. Worm has 3 armor, 2 life remaining against 3 damage. So blocks nothing, is dead. First, this settler attacks this worm right in front of him, using, as always, his rifle in close combat. And it's a hit, 3 damage, armor save, blocks 1, so 2 damage for the worm. Also, his nerd rage kicks in. Second shot, a miss. Second settler charges in, using a second green die for outnumbering and a black die for charging. A hit, 2 extra damage, that's 4 damage. Yeah, the worm blocks 2, that's 2 more damage. 1 strong armor, but that's enough to kill him here and now. So it's now the big beginning of the 5th round. There will be penalties on attacks, but as there are no more enemies than this cow, you can forget it. First, Hancock moves up to the edge of the board, right to this loot marker. Now Codsworth goes over, finding a small computer lying here. So his second action will be the computer check. Intelligent guy has intelligence 7, so makes it no problem. Finding a laser musket. One of the Minutemen must have lost it here. The rest of the gang is moving up the board, with Tanya drinking the Nuka-Cola, giving her 3 life back, saving her from death. Now it's time for the 6th round, the last round. The event also doesn't have any effect as there are no more enemies here. First activation will be Hancock. Finding another computer terminal, he tries to hack. Tries to hack it with his second action. And nails it. Also creating a quick action, which he can use for a move. He finds a skeleton key. And with the quick action moves off the board, being the first one to arrive at the second scenario. The rest of the gang also has enough movement to make it over the board edge this turn. So 6 rounds, game is over. We have won, not lost a single fighter. So all these 6 survivors have managed to survive the first scenario and meet up with Jessie, my free tag. She sees the new 2 guns that my guys have found, checks them, repairs them, so the laser gun and the laser musket are ready to go for the second scenario. And as Jessie got poisoned and before she dies, I decide that Jessie will bring Tanya home back safe to our settlement. So Tanya will not join us, and these 5 will have to do the second scenario on their own. Before preparing for the next scenario, I am allowed to draw 2 explore cards. that lead to 50 caps that we earn, and I may draw 2 boost cards. But these are very special. Let's see if they come in handy in the next scenario. Thanks for now, folks. I hope you had fun and see you on the next scenario.